Bernie Sanders is running for president, and he has my support. I'm Nathan Seelove, and this is Factually Biased. So I could not be more excited that Bernie Sanders is doing another run for president of the United States. And I want to talk a little bit about why I support him, and I'd like to combat some of the counter arguments that people are presenting as to why he's not going to be the best choice. So first off, there are a lot of people that are still blaming him for the fact that Hillary Clinton lost the election against Donald Trump. And I think that that is an extremely unfair characterization. First off, people say that he didn't fight hard enough for Hillary Clinton to get elected. He turned around and endorsed her, and he campaigned in every single state that he could. He went all across the country trying to make sure that people voted for her. He never told anybody that they should write him in or that they should go third party. No, he specifically said, we need to elect Hillary Clinton in order to secure the future of the United States, because Donald Trump, he knew, was going to be an atrocious president, and Donald Trump has turned out to be an atrocious president. He campaigned all over the place for Hillary Clinton. Also, people often make the argument that one thing that cost Hillary Clinton the election was Bernie voter defectors. You know, people that voted for Bernie in the primaries, but then turned around and voted for Donald Trump in the general. Now, a study came out at the time that showed that the number of people that there were two different studies. One of them showed that it was about 6% of Bernie supporters, and then another study showed that it was about 12%. And if we're assuming that it's 12%, you might look at that and say, that's not an insignificant number. That could have been enough to push Hillary Clinton over the line. However, one important fact that I think is worth pointing out is that if we look at 2008, if we look at the election between Barack Obama and John McCain, 24% of Hillary voters in the primary voted for John McCain. A much higher number of Bernie defectors. So I'm not going to make the argument that Hillary Clinton didn't do enough to help get Barack Obama elected. I'm not going to make the argument that that was her fault. And if you want to be fair, you can't make the argument that the 12%, the less of a percentage of Bernie voters that defected in the general election, that was his fault. He primaried all over the place, or he campaigned all over the place. He endorsed her, and I think that maybe she should have just gone to Wisconsin once or twice. Anyways, so that's one counter argument that people are putting at Bernie Sanders. Another counter argument that I hear all the time, if I took a shot for every time that I heard someone say Bernie Sanders is too extreme and we need a moderate, I would die. Like, if I took a shot for every time I heard someone say that, I would die. And the thing is, that operates under a political model that does not exist anymore. That operates under the assumption that the American people, most American people, lie in the middle. That because there is a large number of Americans that consider themselves independent, that means that their views lie in the middle. But that's not true. When you look at actual polling, that is not true. So let's look at the radical policies that Bernie Sanders proposes. Medicare for all, 70% support. Free college tuition, 60% support. Legalizing marijuana, 62% support. Bernie Sanders is not an extremist compared to everyday Americans. The political establishment in Washington are extremists in comparison to everyday Americans. Extreme to the right. Because most Americans are with Bernie on the policies. So the argument that you're shooting yourself in the foot if you nominate someone that extreme is just not taking a look at the actual data present. It is operating under an outdated model. It does not work. So that's another major counter argument. Another counter argument that people are making about Bernie, and this is one that I think is worth addressing, and that is his performance with minorities in his 2016 run. There's no other way to really put it. He lost the African American vote. He did not do well in areas with large black populations. That's just fact. He didn't. Now, you can make the argument that Bernie Sanders was right on the policies when it came to policies that would actually help the black community. But the fact of the matter is, his attempts at outreach towards them were not successful because he did not win them. So I think that's a fair criticism to make. And he also thinks that that's a fair criticism because he is trying to do things differently this time around. He is trying to make sure that his campaign is a lot more diverse, that the campaign chairs and even the campaign manager, that he's hiring a much more diverse campaign this time. And right now that includes Faye Shakir, who is the former political director of the American Civil Liberties Union, Nina Turner, the president of Our Revolution, Carmen Cruz, who is the mayor of San Juan, Puerto Rico. It includes Ro Khanna, Indian American representative from California. He listens to people's criticisms, and he is making sure that he is getting a more diverse perspective in the higher-ups of his campaign. I think that that is worth addressing, and I think that the fact that he took that step is worth giving credit for. Also, one other major argument that people make against Bernie Sanders, and this is the one that I think really does hold some ground, and that is his age. He is going to be, I believe, 79 on the day he's inaugurated, if he wins the election. That's old. That is very old. But at the same time, he is very transparent about his health. He makes sure to keep himself in good health. And as it stands, he has not been having any major health problems, and he has not been showing any signs of slowing down. I mean, if you see him speaking at a rally, he is still extremely energetic. He is still youthful, and I don't think that there's any signs of slowing down anytime soon. Now, if that is enough to keep you from voting for him, then, I mean, that's your prerogative. But for me, that's not going to keep me from voting for him. So another argument that people are making against him is that now we have politicians in the race that are endorsing some of the more radical policies that he proposed, therefore we don't need him anymore. And while I deeply appreciate the fact that politicians like Kirsten Gillibrand, like Cory Booker, like Kamala Harris, have all endorsed Medicare for All, and I think they should be praised for that, because we should always praise people when they come over to our side. Otherwise, we're disincentivizing people from coming over to our side. That being said, the president is about choosing the person you want to run for president is about choosing the person that you want to be the centerpiece. And I think you can tell a lot about a person based on whether or not they supported a policy back when it wasn't overwhelmingly popular. Like I said, 70% of Americans agree with Medicare for All. And I don't think that it is a coincidence that around the time that that happened, suddenly you had these 3 senators coming out in favor of it. I don't think that's a coincidence. So Bernie Sanders was advocating for it long before it became that popular. In fact, it's probably safe to say that he is the reason why Medicare for All is so popular now. So it's not that I don't think that Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, Kirsten Gillibrand, it's not that I think that they're not going to fight at all for Medicare for All, but I think that it is a lot more obvious that Bernie Sanders strongly believes in fighting for Medicare for All, and that's a fight that he's not going to back down on. That's a fight that he's going to make sure that he's going to continue to make to the American people. And I think that that makes him a better candidate for president, and I think that makes him more likely to have our best interests in mind. So I think that for those reasons that Bernie Sanders is the best choice for the Democratic nominee for president of the United States. Now, one thing I will also be very clear about, Donald Trump is an absolutely atrocious president, and whoever the Democrats nominate is going to get my support because we need to get Trump out of office. So even if they do nominate the most centrist Democrat you can think of, they're still going to get my vote over Donald Trump. And I'm going to stand by that. So I think that whoever the nominee is, I'm going to support them, and I think you should too. Even if it is a lesser of two evils situation, it is better to get 3% better than to get 50% worse. I mean, there are issues that we cannot continue to delay, issues like climate change that we cannot continue to delay, and there's going to be no progress on that under the Trump administration. So we need to make sure that we get a Democrat in the White House. And I think that Bernie Sanders is going to be the best choice and the strongest choice for taking on Donald Trump. Well, that's today's video. Thank you all for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a like, a share, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Check out some of my other stuff, and I will see you next week.